All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap. It's over. The robots are taking over, and we're out of here. I hope not. And we'll just have to sit back on our couches and let them operate the world, I guess. Moving forward. That's about all she wrote. AI. Oh boy. What's happening, everyone? A little bit of an overreaction, I think. Emergency press conference. The robots are here. Will they take our jobs? That's the question at hand. Welcome into the Art Walk podcast. My name's Aaron Massey, and do we have an emergency, a national emergency, an international emergency for all, not just artists, but people? Everyone's freaking out about AI, ChatGPT. We're going to get into all of this today, ultimately answering the question, are creative jobs in jeopardy moving forward for the future? And we're going to touch on different aspects of what I think will happen in the future of creativity for artists in all fields. And we'll hit on some specifics of those particular industries like writing, music, filmmaking, art, and have a little conversation around this topic because it is getting interesting. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this episode of the Art Walk podcast. Welcome in. All right, everyone, grab a nice icy beverage, a frothy beverage, a warm cup of your finest tea, a bourbon with a rock, maybe neat. A glass of wine. If it's late, you got the candles going. Got a blanket warming you up. Settle in. Hopefully it won't scare you during this conversation. But I want to be honest about my thoughts, what I think is going to happen in the future here. Because now, if you don't know, we're going to kind of get into it. I'll explain a little bit everything from a basic standpoint, but then you can do some research on your own. If you want to like pause after I bring up some topics, pause the podcast and look into some things. But ultimately, I think if you are creative, if you're, kind of up to date, staying within topics of the current world, you know what's going on. I don't have to really explain too much to you in terms of AI, artificial intelligence, and how it is potentially going to displace us, people, the ones who actually created the thing, and my thoughts on job displacement. Will we have job security? We already have a lack of job security in our industry in a sense for many of us. So will it even get worse? I'll give you my thoughts on that. You may be surprised. You may not be by what I'm about to tell you. It may not be all bad news, but there may be some bad news. That is the most political way I could put this to make sure you stay tuned. But I do have some points on both ends. So let's get into it. And then you can create your own opinion after I bring up some of these topics and some points and opinions that I would like to share, as it is early 2023. And I know by next year, we'll probably even go back and listen to this episode and be like, wow, this has changed already so much. But what I can do is at least kind of keep everything up to date from this point, and let's just get into it. So the overall question that I think is very important is, will artificial intelligence replace the majority of creative jobs? And I think that there's absolutely certain fields that will be affected. An entire displacement, I don't necessarily believe that will be the case. So there's some positive news, but I do feel like there are some industries that will get hit early and get hit hard. It doesn't mean that it will always stay that way. I think from an adaptation standpoint, we will have to see where the landscape is, figure some things out. You know, when I'm talking about like the corporate world of art, meaning if you are a graphic designer, you know, if you do any sort of artwork, you know, for branding, labels, things like that. Even photographers, this could touch a bit. And what I'll do is I'm gonna kind of lay out a few of the reasons why, and also I want to kind of just get into so that we all have kind of a basis around what the things that I will be talking about. I'm going to kind of go through those right now. So the one that is most popular, I think that has gained the most traction in terms of pop culture and what most people know about is called ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence platform built by a company called OpenAI. So OpenAI has different types of AI modules. They actually have ChatGPT is their main kind of well-known one, which is basically that. It's a chat bot. So you can ask it questions, and it's pretty crazy how accurate and somewhat personable it is. It's not perfect yet, but I know in time it's just going to get better and better as we keep typing in the questions, as it keeps learning. And it's something that, you know, we're going to have to get used to because it's here to stay. And that's just that. Let me go ahead and give you the actual definition on OpenAI's website. ChatGPT optimizing language models for dialogue. Okay. And what they say is we've trained a model called ChatGPT, which interacts in a conventional way. The dialogue format makes it possible for ChatGPT to answer follow-up questions, admit its mistakes, challenge incorrect premises, and reject inappropriate requests. ChatGPT is a sibling model to Instruct GPT, which is trained to follow an instruction in a prompt and provide a detailed response. So that's their main homepage description of what ChatGPT is. To give you some insight, you can just ask it questions in very specific formats, and it's pretty amazing what the responses are. This thing does everything from answer basic questions to literally type up legal documents. I've tried it. It's pretty crazy. I'm building a new website. I asked it to build me out particular legal documentation in terms of some copyright things and things that are needed for a website. And it was pretty wild how quickly and how efficiently it provided that data. What I also found pretty amazing was in this mode of me building my new website, updating it, I'm kind of building it from templates. I know nothing about coding. And what ChatGPT is able to do is actually, I asked it to build me a homepage, and I asked it to do it in code. So in website code. And this thing basically built out this coded model text that I could then take and implement into a website. So our web designers freaking out right now, maybe a little bit. The thing is right now, I don't think the ChatGPT coding aspect of it, unless you really spend a lot of time honing in and then re-questioning basically coding that it's offering and reconfiguring that coding, which will take a lot of time. I don't think it can just blast out this perfect looking website right now, currently. That doesn't mean that it won't be able to do that in a year or two. And it's pretty crazy. It's pretty scary. And that could absolutely disrupt a lot of that industry, a lot of that web industry. Marketing is a whole aspect of what this thing could do in terms of writing script, writing advertising script, copy, and then also what it's able to do is you can then incorporate from that imagery And that's another part of this that I want to get to is there are models out there of AI. One's called Midjourney. Basically, OpenAI has one that's called Dolly, and they're very similar where you can type in prompts. And from these prompts, say I wanted to make a portrait of Michael Jordan in the style of Rembrandt, and then I can give it dimensions, make it so it looks like, a painting for sure, things like that. And it'll give you some options. It'll like blast out these artificial options. Now there's some people that are really upset with this art side of this world. And I'm going to touch on that because I'm going to give my opinion on that may not be very popular. For artists that are freaking out right now, there's definitely a part of you that should be somewhat concerned. But I don't necessarily think it's going to affect you as much as you're thinking right now. So the art side of things, I'm going to get to that. And I think that's a very important topic. And it needs to be discussed. And it's something that I have some opinions about that may not be popular, but I'm going to kind of run through all of that with the Midjourneys and the Dollys of the world out there with the AI art. Getting back to kind of that ChatGPT portion of this, I'm sure you've already even heard this has the ability to, affect schooling, essays, like answering questions for tests and doing it very accurately. It's pretty wild. As we speak right now, I'm trying to get on ChatGPT and the system is overloaded. I can't even get on right now because I wanted to type out an example for you and even ask it some interesting questions that tie into our current conversation that we're having. It's saying the system is bogged down and it has exceptionally high traffic and I'm not able to. Oh, am I in? Wait a minute. New chat. Hold on. I'm in. Okay. So getting back to ChatGPT, it has the ability to really disrupt, I think, the education system. I even read that I think it literally just passed an exam or finals exam at Harvard or MIT or someplace pretty prominent. Let's look into it. ChatGPT passes college exam. Let's see what we can find here. Law and business school passes law school exam. It says despite mediocre performance. So, still. Also, the one point that I want to make about ChatGPT is it only has, at least for now, it only updates its information. It has information up to 2021. So in terms of current events, you asking it about like, hey, what are the best stocks to buy right now? It's not going to be able to give you that type of information, but it is going to be able to give you a general knowledge base from anything that you type. And so it's one thing that's pretty wild is you can get really creative with it. So I don't want to say that this is all going to be completely bad because there are going to be some benefits to this. And I think with anything that's new technology, always in the past, we've always been a little bit scared. People were scared when the television first came out. They said it was going to ruin our kids' brains and it's just going to change everything and it's going to destroy the world. The same thing happened with cell phones. Granted, there are negatives to a lot of this new technology, but I think we have the ability to adapt with it. And it's something that I am going to call the 3 A's, and that's adhere, adjust, and adapt. We're going to adhere to this. It's here to stay. And whether you believe it or not, we've actually been living with AI for a long time. If you use Google Maps, Apple Maps, whatever, to get directions, That's artificial intelligence. That's basically in real time looking at ways to get you to a place. It's learned traffic patterns. That's AI. Google search. When you start typing in a word and it starts listing recommendations underneath what you're typing, and usually there's one that's pretty much right on the dot, that's AI. That's artificial intelligence. It's doing work. It's taking information. Your phone is doing it in a lot of different applications. And so it's not something that's like completely new. And I don't think people have quite wrapped their heads around it. We've been dealing with artificial intelligence for a while now, for decades. These new applications within the AI world are what could be the disrupting factors to certain industries, certain jobs. And that's what I really want to explore today. With ChatGPT in particular, it could have a major effect on, like I was talking about, schooling, authors, writers. There are people that have actually, from a filmmaking standpoint, had it write a script. I know somebody's actually made a short film from a ChatGPT screenplay. I don't think it was very good. It got ridiculed online. That being said, I think you have to understand that it has limitations, and what you can use it for and how we actually do adhere and then adapt to this technology as artists is how can it help us? Because again, this stuff isn't going anywhere. So to be angry about it, to be aggressively fired up and trying to, tell people to stop using it and get rid of it, it's like, it's going to be a lost cause because it's here to stay. This stuff is going to be incorporated into our world. So I feel like we've always been very good at adapting to new technologies. We understand that we can't necessarily always change things, but at the end of the day, we can adapt and adhere and then take advantage of what is being offered to us. So in respects to that, we can look at, say, ChatGPT here, and I'm going to ask it right out of the gate, are jobs in the creative fields going to be displaced by AI? And I'm going to read exactly what it's going to tell you. It's probably biased, but I'm going to let you know right now. So it says, and it's typed out, it is possible that certain tasks within creative fields may be automated or augmented by AI, but it is unlikely that AI will completely displace jobs in these fields. While AI can generate creative content, it is still limited in its ability to understand and replicate the nuances and subtleties of human creativity. Additionally, many jobs in the creative fields involve tasks such as project management, client relations, and team coordination, which are unlikely to be fully replaced by AI. It's more likely that AI will change the way we work and the roles we play in the creative fields. Now, if you trust the robots, that can be somewhat of a positive response. I'm going to go ahead and then from this chat, go ahead and ask it, can you expand on this? Very general, right? And just see what it says. It's typing pretty rapidly. ChatGPT says, sure, certain specific tasks within the creative fields may be automated or augmented by AI. For example, in the field of graphic design, AI can assist with tasks such as image recognition, color matching, and layout optimization. In the field of music, AI can assist with tasks such as composing, arranging, and even generating lyrics. In the field of writing, AI can assist with tasks such as summarization, translation, and even writing simple new articles or social media posts. However, it is important to note that while AI can assist with these tasks, it is still limited in its ability to fully understand and replicate the nuances and subtleties of human creativity, starting to repeat itself a little bit. For example, AI may be able to generate a basic melody, but it may not be able to understand the emotional impact of a particular chord progression or melody. Similarly, AI may be able to create a basic design, but it may not be able to fully understand the cultural or historical context that informs a particular design aesthetic. Interesting. Additionally, many jobs in the creative fields involve tasks such as project management, client relations, team. See, it's kind of repeating some of what it's saying, team coordination. These roles require human interaction, empathy, and creativity, which AI lack. Now it's downgrading itself. It's self-loathing. Therefore, it is more likely that AI will change the way we work, the roles we play in the creative fields. It will assist in repetitive tasks, increase efficiency, and speed up the workflow, but it will not eliminate the need for human creativity. So I asked the two questions, and that is what, I literally just read what it said. Pretty impressive in terms of its writing skills, dialogue management, sentence structure. It's all there. It sounds like, anyone could have written this. Anyone who's very informed, well-structured, great wording use, adjectives. It's all there. So I think it is very interesting what it's saying, though. And I think, if you trust the robots that may take over, and you don't think they're lying to us, it's saying that we are going to adapt, and there are going to be things that basically we are still going to have the ability to make sure that we, from a human level, be able to manage. And I think that's within the human to human context. There will be things that are affected, without a doubt. There's no question about that. And is it going to be in your field? It possibly could be. I think now is a good wake-up call to figure out if you feel like you're going to be affected. Start thinking about ways to either integrate your field with this technology, come up with ideas. If you feel like, you have a job in marketing or something like that, that you have to manage expectations of what your job productivity will be in the future. You have bosses or owners that are concerned about what you're going to be able to do if you're replaceable. Get out ahead of this and come up with some strategies and plans to reassure them that this is something that you can integrate with and provide even extra value for your clients, for your job, for your position. I think that's a really smart idea to do. And to let them know that maybe even you understand this technology better than they do. So it's something you should study. It's something you should actually get behind, because like I said before, it's not going anywhere. You are not getting rid of this. So it's one of these things where it's like, it's an acceptance factor. And then what are you going to do with it, right? How do you take advantage of it? And that's ultimately what this was built as. What it's saying also is it is a productivity factor. It's something that we can then say, I can basically come in here and say, help me outline my next YouTube video script on the topic of creativity, using chord progressions in music. And it can give me some topics and ideas and maybe some AI opinions of basically what it thinks I want. I can expand, I can tweak that. And I can be like, oh, that's a great jumping off point, but I have all these other ideas from there. Oh, the second point that it made, that's something that I've thought about in the past, but I need to research more. I'm really glad it brought that up. I'm going to go and dive into this and see what I can find out. And then I'm going to use that in terms of building, a subject matter into my next YouTube video. It's there for the taking in terms of what you want it to be. If you're a website builder, maybe this can help you fast track coding. Maybe it won't totally affect your job. You're still going to need boots on the ground to execute the tasks, right? An owner of a company isn't going to be able to, just because there's AI out there, take on all of these tasks and just say, AI, do this, AI, do this, AI, it's not going to be efficient that way. You still need boots on the ground to handle those particular tasks. And then AI in particular can help round out the efficiency and even be more productive in the future. That's the way I kind of see this from an overall aspect of what ChatGPT can do. And in a year or two, it might even be able to talk about current events, real-time things, and that will be mind-blowing, because then we're really going to see the power of this thing. And so it's something to keep your eye on. It's something to not duck away from. I would inform yourself on it and just learn about it and play with it and practice with it and see if there are things that, whatever creative field that you're in, you can either maybe get some ideas for some new things from this, or have it allow you to be more efficient in whatever way that might be in terms of organizing, a planner. I mean, just thinking even back in general terms of like just everyday life, like this thing can give you a grocery list. You can, give me a grocery list for the week consisting of all healthy proteins and vegetables. And it will literally it'll knock all that out for you. And you can just print it out and take it to the store, take a photo of it and take it to the store. It's wild. It's wild stuff. So that's ChatGPT. We got a lot more to get to. Before we do, I want to remind you, if you haven't signed up to the ArtWalk newsletter, you can do so at www.artwalk.substack.com. That is a place where actually the podcast is hosted. So every time I post a new one, you actually will be updated in your email. And you can find some other things there. I do something called 5 Cool Things every once in a while that highlights some different aspects of art in different fields like film and television and music and some other fun things there. But if you'd like to sign up, that's where you can do it. Again, www.artwalk.substack.com. And I appreciate you checking that out, and would love for you to subscribe. That helps me out as well. So thanks so much. All right. So getting back to it here, ladies and gentlemen, moving on from ChatGPT, I did want to touch on the art platforms that are in AI. And the main ones that a lot of people know about are called Midjourney and DALL-E. Those are two really popular ones. Now, I've played around with Midjourney a little bit, and it's pretty wild. It's pretty impressive. And again, to highlight what they do, you put in prompts. By prompts, you just type in what you want. You could put seaside town, lighthouse, sunset, in the style of DALL-E, and it will generate these images to the best of its ability. Now, that's a very general way to kind of describe this. There are people that are very good out there that actually can hone down and get very particular about how this thing makes what you're telling it to make. Because sometimes it can be way off. You have something in your head. It's basically referencing images from the internet is what it's doing. This is where a lot of people are having issues with the art side of this AI. They're actually referencing, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of images across the internet. When you type in painting, portrait of a woman wearing a yellow hat and a fur coat, just as an example, it's going to go through the internet and find all the photographs, all the paintings, all of the graphic design images that reference in a way what you typed in. And from there, it's basically generating its own construction of what it thinks you want. And what a lot of people have issues with is it's saying that you're using other artists' work to create this work, even though it's not necessarily the photo or painting that artist did. It's referencing millions of them. And trust me, as an artist, I'm all about protecting copyright. I'm about protecting ownership of what you do. The unpopular opinion that I have about this is if it's on the internet, it's 2023. I don't want to generalize and say it's fair game. That's not the point I'm saying, because that can be misconstrued and saying, oh, well, someone can just take your photo in Bangladesh and then put it on a box of hair color. You took this portrait of a woman who's got great hair, and they use that to market it, and then now you're going through international legal battles, and it's a nightmare. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is it's not taking exact photos, right? It's not taking exact paintings. It's taking structurally what us as humans have created, and it's creating its own thing from that. Why I don't necessarily have the biggest issue with that is because that's what all of us are doing when we make our art. So bear with me here. If you watch a Quentin Tarantino film, they're amazing. He's one of my favorite filmmakers to ever live. There's not a Quentin Tarantino film that I don't like. I love most of them. That being said, this is a guy who borrows a lot of his shots in his films. He's so smart, and he's watched so many films that he, in quotations, pays homage to films of the past by, in a way, either replicating or very graciously taking from those films and kind of creating from those films and using them as a reference material to kind of insert into his own projects. There's actually people on the internet that have shown like shot for shot old films with his films, and they match up pretty closely. There's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of people that, talk about this. It's like great artists steal. And it's in a way that's not flagrant or you're abusing things, but you borrow from other artists. You take inspiration from other artists. If you're a musician, there's so many artists that sample other musicians, or you hear a beat and you get inspiration from that beat and you change it up a little bit to make it your own. As authors, we're inspired by certain authors that we've read growing up, and we start to even almost mimic their language style. And you write so much to a point where it's maybe you forget that you're even doing it. But there are absolute patterns in your work that are referenced from that material. So unless you're an alien, unless you have no background and insight into all of the art that's flooded through your brain, i.e. the internet, you have no reference points to create anything. And so my argument in favor of this AI art making applications are, it's kind of doing the same thing that we're doing. We're taking inspiration from artists that we love and admire, and we're turning something into our own thing. And whether you think you're doing that or not, you're saying, no, Aaron, that's not true. I don't do that. It's like, well, dig a little bit deeper, because whether you think you are or not, I know you were influenced by a style of music growing up, filmmakers, movies, art, a painter, an author. You're inspired by certain people, and it makes you want to do that work, it makes you want to do that art. And you put your little love language on it, and sometimes you throw a little homage to them too, and in your work. And I think that's just called referencing. That's referencing other artists. That's being inspired. That's being influenced by other things. And a lot of it may happen on a subconscious level. For those of you who may be disagreeing with me right now, subconsciously, without you even realizing it, you're taking inspiration from other artists, other things that you've seen with your own eyes. And that's technically what the AI is doing. And so I think we all need to take a step back and reframe our perspective on the stealing aspect of art. Now, if it's taking a singular image that someone made, or even like just two images and combining it, and then someone's selling that for themselves, that's an issue. But it doesn't seem, unless someone can prove me wrong with some examples, it doesn't seem like the AI is doing that. It's referencing millions upon millions of images across the internet. And then you as the artist can go in and manipulate and tell it, I want 3 arms on this body instead of 2. And you can do things like that where you start to create and make it your own thing and have fun with it. So I am still mixed in my emotions about this new technology, but I did want to kind of throw that out there because I think a lot of us that are angry and yelling and upset and end this AI art, you're killing artists' jobs. I think we need to take a step back and just look at this and to have a discussion around this, because it's not going anywhere, whether you like it or not. So how are you going to adapt? With the art thing, the last point that I want to make is, in my opinion, I think what this is doing to the art world right now, where anyone can go on a computer and kind of create their own thing, I think that's pretty cool, right? And what I think a positive actually from this is it's going to make people a little bit more creative, more interested in the arts. Listen, there is nothing better than looking at a physical painting that a human being made and mastered. There's something special about that. And what I think is going to happen is having AI around in all of these fields is only going to increase the value of the human creation. What we make with our hands and with our minds, it's only going to increase that value. It's only going to increase that value structure. Because anyone now can go on a computer and make something from AI. If you know and it's validated in some form, however we might be able to do that in the future, that's a real thing. Knowing that a painting came from a human being in their hands with their paintbrush versus a digital painting, or if, maybe now you can have a digital painting and a 3D printer can maybe make the painting. I understand that technology could already be here. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's here in the future. Probably already is. But knowing which one's which, and I have the option to buy, I just feel like knowing that somebody made this by hand is going to increase the value of that. And also, it's going to have an effect on the emotionality of the human being. We're always going to be connected to each other. We're always going to be connected to other humans, I think, more than robots, more than artificial intelligence. And I think that's really important to remember. And so I don't think you should be discouraged if you're a painter, an artist, a graphic designer, even in the digital world, knowing that you still made something versus a machine, I think will lend itself value. A couple other things that I want to point out before we wrap this up is, there's going to be some other industries that are affected. There's already AI that can make music. What's that going to mean for people that make soundtracks? Again, I don't think that it's going to replace, because, if you're doing a score for a film, you're a composer, the AI can probably only get it to a certain place. If you want to use that as a jumping off point, I think that can be great. But there are going to be subtleties within the film that you need to strike from a composition status of the music to bring it down, to crescendo up at a very certain point, to know that a certain note or tone can have an emotional capture on the human psyche is really important. And then maybe the AI can get close or try to deliver in that aspect. But in real time, when you really need to put the details into a scene of a film, that's always just going to be human. Maybe I'll be proven wrong in 25, 50 years. People are looking back laughing at this video, but for the foreseeable future, what we have, either learn to integrate with it and learn to maybe just start using it as a basis, or just deny it altogether and continue to do your thing. I don't know what's going to happen in that field. But for me, I also believe that there's nothing more valuable than live music performances. I love listening to music when I'm working, when I'm around my place, in the car. But there is nothing like watching a live band at a music venue. And if there's just some machine up there playing music that it made, even if there's some people dancing around to it, it's just like, it's not going to do it. It's not going to cut it. And so I think live performance may even become more valued than it already is today. And that'll be very special. There's a pretty wild thing too, and I'm going to finalize this topic and wrap this up with a couple more points. But the industry of filmmaking, we've had a lot of changes in our industry over the last decade or so. I'll start even with voiceover. Voiceover artists can make a living these days if you can kind of get in that circle and book some things, book some commercials, book some animated things on television or film. And there's already programs now that are able to take your voice. If you record a minute or 2 minutes of your voice, it can then pick up inflection tones, the way you speak your vowels, consonants, everything. It will compile to the best of its ability. I think the more access you give it to your voice, the better it will be. You can then write something out, type it into the platform, and it will go ahead and basically spit everything back out to you in your voice that you just typed. New words, not stuff that you gave it, absolutely new words. It's going to change the voiceover industry, I think, in the advertising world pretty effectively. That is one industry that I see being changed a lot. Now, there's still AI voice modules that don't quite give that human touch, and maybe that's where we as the humans come in and say, hey, I'm still going to give you my voice. You can pay me for my actual voice and emotionality and tone in my voice. And then type in whatever you need to from an advertising standpoint to give you those exact words and notes if you don't want to necessarily spend your time or spend your money on a full session for the voiceover actor. It may be a cost reduction in that, but I think that's something that could absolutely happen here in the near future. So prepare yourself in terms of what that could mean for you. If that's something that you do, or it's a bit of side income, you may want to start thinking about how to incorporate yourself within that, or replace that part of your income. Unfortunately, the film industry it's wild because we've seen a lot of technology changes. I mean, if you've seen Avatar, you see how good something like that looks, that film cost $1 billion. So there's still a lot of money going into something like that technology. But there are some simple things that are actually pretty exciting from a young filmmaker's perspective, or even anyone who just wants to make something small on a small scale that doesn't have a huge avatar budget. I've seen now where there's an application called Move AI. It's still, I think, in beta, and I haven't had a chance to play around with it yet, but basically it allows you to remove green screens. And if you know what I mean, it's green screens, basically it's how they shot 300, if you're familiar with that. And you can put anything on the screen behind you. It makes it look like mountains or anything. And you're shooting inside a studio. So what this does is you can just shoot anywhere, like even here behind me, even though this wall is green, that has nothing to do with it. But it'll basically map out the back wall, and then you can digitize yourself. You can put a different background behind you. I can make myself into a monster of some kind just in this shot setup. So what you can do from an indie filmmaker standpoint is actually pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. And I'm really looking forward to being able to play with that on my end as well. And just scale up what I can do from an individual standpoint and not necessarily needing a big studio budget. So again, I think there's a lot of positives when it comes to this. Now that could affect people that actually work in those industries. But I think, again, we're talking about efficiency. I think we're going to have footprints and boots on the ground in terms of people executing these things that still need done. That type of, say, shot where you're taking out a background and turning the actor into a monster is still going to need people to execute that in the post-production side of things. So I think the job requirements, necessities are going to just change, not necessarily remove people. And I think that's something that we just need to look at. We need to take a step back and see, okay, this is here to stay. How are we adapting to it? Whatever field you might be in, what am I going to do to adhere to this, adapt to it, and accept it? And I think using it in a positive manner for yourself will only, and having that mindset of being positive around this, will, I think, only help you move forward instead of fighting against it. And that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts on this. Will this end the world? It might. It might. So make a lot of art while you can. You know, have fun. Tell your family and friends you love them, and have fun. Go out, have fun, eat a great meal tonight after you listen to this. The robots are coming, so just crack open that really good bottle of wine that you've saved. Drink it up and taste every drop before the AI infiltrates your collection of wine bottles and food and brain. And I'm just kidding. Going off on a tangent, ladies and gentlemen. It's fun though, isn't it? Our world is a wild one. It's rapidly changing, and I'm here for it. Are you? Are you gonna cower away from this technology, or are you gonna embrace it? I think the smart thing to do is embrace it. I think the smart thing to do is accept it and adhere to it and adjust and create your own path within this new technology. That's how you're going to make your future. That's how you're going to get ahead. And I think the ability to really be efficient and make some really cool stuff with your human element, with your human touch on it, will be pretty cool. And it'll be pretty wild. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I wish you the best out there. Don't give up. Keep making. Keep doing your thing. Thanks for listening, everyone. And peace.